How's it going, YouTube? Got FourthStarTCG here, and over the past week or so, I gave you the bull case for Pokemon and the bear case for Pokemon. Now, this was a little misunderstood because at the beginning of both videos, I said that this wasn't my actual opinion on the Pokemon card hobby. This is what I thought were the best arguments for why Pokemon might go in one direction or the other. And I can see value in both arguments. I can see possible outcomes coming from both sides. But today I want to give you what I actually think, where I think the Pokemon market is going in the future. And I've been in the hobby for going on about 12 years now. I've been through the 2016 boom, I've been through the 2020 boom, the 2023 waifu boom, the 2025 boom. I've been around here for a lot. I've been here when things were crazy, I've been here when things were not crazy. So I do have a good amount of experience. In addition to being a moderator for one of the largest Pokemon card collecting forums out there and buying and selling cards for these 12 years. So I would like to think that I have some general idea, better than your kind of average collector as to what might happen in the hobby. Now, if I had to sum up what my thoughts are for the future of Pokemon, I would say that I'm optimistic over the long term while hesitant in the short term. And I'll explain that quickly before I get into kind of the nuts and bolts of this argument. We've seen what's happened now before, right? I saw it in 2016, I saw it in 2020, I saw it in 2023, and I'm seeing it, most of it, in 2025. And what happens with Pokemon cards is we have these periods of really significant value increases where cards go crazy. And eventually things hit a high. And once they hit a high, it's very hard to tell when they've actually hit that high. But once things hit the high, they peter out a little bit, and then we start to see some corrections, some fairly significant corrections. And looking at the market over the past sort of couple of months or so, I think we've kind of hit the high for where we're going in the 2025 boom. And we're starting to see corrections. We've seen corrections in Modern, we've seen some corrections in Vintage as well. I think we're starting to see some of the declines. Now, is this going to mean that everything's going to zero, that cards are going to lose 80% of their value? No. Usually what happens in these booms is that things never go back to the way they were before. We're not going to get back to the 2023, 2024 prices on a lot of these cards, both modern and vintage. It's just not going to happen. However, we might go down a good amount from the highs where cards were. If a card was selling for $500, $600 in 2020, now it's $4,000. We're probably never going to get back to 500 to 600, but we might go down quite a bit from 4,000. We might go down to 2,000, might go down to 1,500 or something. So if you are buying cards now, especially, cards that really went up a lot, that have peaked in this market and are now kind of starting to flatten out and their values might be a little inflated compared to their fundamentals, this might be a dangerous time for you and you should be very careful. But overall, I think the general price trajectory of the Pokemon card hobby over the long term is going to continue to go up. And I'm betting on that. I'm betting on that with my Pokemon business. I'm betting on that with my collection, with my own money. I think that's where we're going. That's where I'm putting my money. But if we wanted to break this down a little further and talk about specific eras, because everyone is a different type of collector and everyone has different things that they mean when they talk about the Pokemon market. For some people, the Pokemon market is just modern. What's available at the store, what's available at MSRP or not. Pokemon market booming means you can't buy modern at MSRP. Pokemon market stagnant means you can buy modern at MSRP. So if we want to start with the idea of buying modern sealed, I think that buying modern sealed is going to moderately reward people over the medium to long term. The increase of people buying sealed product just to store it away is going to have an effect, I believe. Again, my opinion. I think the increase in people just kind of putting modern stuff away and waiting for it to go up in value is going to depress the growth rate for a lot of Pokemon sets. We're not going to be getting, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plus times over MSRP in a couple years. I don't think that's going to happen. But I do think that putting stuff away, waiting for a while, is eventually going to lead to some gains. So if you're investing in modern sealed, I think you're probably going to see some reasonable returns over the medium to long term. The caveat here that I want to be important and clear on is that this applies to buying cards at MSRP, not necessarily market price. If you can get any Pokemon product at MSRP, that's pretty good. History has shown us that generally Pokemon cards they don't really go under MSRP after a significant period of time, after 4 or 5 years. You're not finding stuff for MSRP anymore. Once sets are released, the kind of modern era, we definitely see stuff go under MSRP. For that, we just saw it with Scarlet and Violet. For the vast majority of Pokemon's history, booster boxes were not the 136 to 140, now 160 that they were at MSRP. They are 90, they are 100, they are 80 even. That's what they were. They were well below MSRP. So buying stuff at market price, $250 plus for a booster box these days is what it's looking at for the Mega Evolution sets. I'd be careful about that because there's a lot of risk in doing that, a lot of risk. And Dan Ketchum Collectibles, he's mentioned this before, he's gone through the data. Every Pokemon set prior to 2025 has been available at some point at MSRP. Doesn't mean stuff doesn't go up, but almost everything has been available at MSRP. So if you're buying sets at market price now, if you're not going really long term with it, you could be hurt. Again, the past doesn't necessarily guarantee the future. We can't just look at the past. Doesn't mean that we won't see MSRP on things like Destined Rivals or Mega Evolution or Black Bolt, White Flare, stuff like that. But I think be careful if you're buying modern sealed for over MSRP. In terms of modern singles, I'm pretty optimistic on modern singles. I think special arts are really, really exciting and really cool. I think that's going to carry the modern era pretty strongly, especially on those top level cards. Lugia special art, Giratina special art, sets that are special art focused like V-Star Universe is going to be really strong. But I want everyone to be careful of oversaturation and to watch for oversaturation when it comes. Because, again, I've been in the hobby for a while. I've seen this movie before. I know how collectors acted in 2018, I think, or 2019. Let me check. I don't know when. I'm looking to see. Is it here? Yeah, 2018, 2019. Well, I'm looking for my Hidden Fates stuff. So 2018, 2019, GX Ultra Shiny Hidden Fates came out. Collectors thought this was the greatest thing in the world. These shiny sets were going for bonkers prices. The Charizard GX, the PSA 10 modern cards were now going for comparable to vintage stuff. It was kind of the first time we saw something like that with modern Pokemon. And then Pokemon did it again. They did it with Shining Fates. More shiny Charizards, more shiny Pokemon that are just kind of copy and paste recolored of full arts. Less interest. Then they did it again with Paldean Fates. Now the only draw on Paldean Fates is the shiny special arts. Nobody cares about the regular shiny full arts. So the reason why I tell this story is to say that oversaturation, going back to the well over and over again, has been proven in Pokemon to eventually burn out the collector base. It's not special anymore. Special arts, if they keep doing them over and over and over again, might become not all that special. I don't think it's going to be as sort of quick as the shiny sets. You know, just over 5 to 7 years, shiny sets have basically been burnt out. Nobody really wants them anymore. I'll talk about that a little bit later on when I talk about my sort of long-term strategy. But this just goes to show that we could do this again with special arts. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's a possibility. With regards to vintage, now going into vintage, I think vintage cards are some of the strongest and most well-positioned things for the long term. There are some classes of cards in vintage that I think are a little bit overheated right now and probably won't maintain their high prices. Things like EX reverses. I've sold several of my EX reverses in PSA 10 recently just because I think the prices are astronomical. And I am thinking that they won't be able to stick for the long term. I've sold multiple in the mid 4-figure range recently. And you know, I'm moving out of that stuff and I'm moving into other stuff that I think is pretty well positioned. You know, I've been showing off on my channel, stuff like my English EX cards that I've been picking up in PSA 9, PSA 10. I think especially with a lot of the prices recently, English EX, a good, strongly positioned thing for the future. A lot of vintage. I really just, I've been rolling a lot of my modern stuff, my mid-era stuff, my less exciting graded stuff into higher value vintage cards recently. So that's the bet I'm making. I'm thinking vintage is going to be strongly positioned for the long term. Really just things like the fundamentals of vintage, its rarity, the sort of simple population, the amount of cards that are out there. The interest in vintage is really high. The demographics for vintage are really strong. People who are interested in those cards are coming into their highest earning years in their late 20s, early 30s, that kind of stuff. And it's a lot more protected from the risk of things like overprinting, things like the demand collapse. You know, if demand were to go down for vintage, prices might go down significantly, a little bit, but we're probably not going to see a crash. Whereas I think a crash, while unlikely, is still much more possible with modern cards as opposed to vintage. So those are my general takes on the Pokemon market going forward, where I think things are going to go with regards to both modern and vintage. But one thing that I want to say to finish this video off, something you're probably not going to hear from most people, other than Dan, Catch 'em All Collectibles, he's excellent, is that I'm likely going to be wrong. In the past, I've been wrong on a lot of things. Most people who try to predict things about markets are generally wrong. Most stock pickers are wrong. Most mutual fund managers are wrong. Most Pokemon YouTubers about the future of Pokemon are wrong. So taking all of this into account, because we can't see the future, we can't predict, we're just talking about what we think is most likely to happen. How I have been approaching things is, even though I think I know where things are going to go in the future, and I'm making plays as to what I think is going to be the best purchasing decisions, best investment, best future collection decisions for me, I'm still doing things that I think might not be the greatest decisions, just to kind of hedge my bets. So, as an example, I'm not all that confident in buying sealed product and waiting for it to appreciate. Not necessarily in the terms that I don't think that's going to make money. I think it will make money. I mentioned that earlier. But just that I think I can make more money elsewhere. I can make more money buying and grading. I can make more money flipping effectively. But even though I think I can make more money other places, and modern sealed isn't necessarily the best place to put my money, I still have been buying modern sealed product for a long time. Not a lot of it. Don't get me wrong here, not a lot. I'm not putting everything, all my chickens in one basket. But I have been buying modern sealed. Here I've got my Shiny Star V booster boxes. That didn't really work out. I bought these for MSRP, so I'm up now. But there's a lot of other things that I could have bought in the mid Sword and Shield era for MSRP or just above it that could have done a lot better than this. Stuff like EV Heroes, stuff like the special art, the early special art sets in Sword and Shield. Those have done a lot better than Shiny Star V. As I was talking about, this kind of oversaturation, GX Ultra Shiny Hidden Fates was super big. I thought Shiny Star V was going to be the next big thing. I was kind of wrong. It's now been eclipsed by even stuff like V-Star Universe, which came out at the end of the Sword and Shield era, several years later. But I kind of just buy a lot of stuff. I've got Chinese Gem 2, right? I bought a bunch of Chinese Gem 2. Maybe it'll go up in value in the future. I think Chinese has been printed a lot. It's now going down in value, but I've still got Chinese Gem 2 sealed just to kind of see how it goes. Sometimes my buying decisions, again, they don't work out. Champion's Path. I should have bought other things other than Champion's Path. But I still did it. Sometimes it works out. I get something like a Destined Rivals Pokemon Center ETB. That's worked out for me. Phantasmal Flames Pokemon Center ETB. That's worked out for me so far. I think that's probably going to be well positioned for the future. But I generally tend to act a little bit like a broad-based participant in the Pokemon hobby. I think that even if you're trying to make money down the road, which I think a lot of us are in Pokemon these days, for better or worse, doing stuff a little bit that you think might not be the best option to kind of hedge your bets is a great way of going about it. And it's a good way of recognizing, too, to show that, you might not be right about everything. I'm probably not going to be right about a lot of the things that I buy. But if I buy 2 boxes of every brand new set and just kind of put it away, eventually something's going to go right. So there we go. That's my take on the Pokemon market for the future. I'm feeling good, but in the short term, I'd be careful, especially buying a lot of modern above MSRP and vintage at all-time highs. It's a little questionable. So be careful. And the perfect solution to everything always is to only spend what you are comfortable spending, what you're comfortable losing, and then you'll always be happy. So thank you all very much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and stick around for more videos.